There we are. Okay. Hey guys, I am going to be making a little map here in Dungeondraft. Hope you guys going to enjoy this. Uh, I'm just going to be doing a short adventure for some people, and I wanted to create a little map for that. And as far as I know, these are going to be 5-foot squares, which means this is a huge map, right? But that is the plan. So I'll probably wind up cutting this map down later. But I kind of wanted to get an idea of where and what this will be. It's just going to be a little cave system with some creatures in it that are like annoying the local people in the town or something, you know? And it's kind of a typical scenario. And I figure, I'll just draw some stuff in here. And the way I've got this set up, I just came into a regular Dungeondraft, setup, and set up that these were little 5-foot wide squares for a 55-inch TV. This is kind of typically how you set it up at any time for whatever you're going to do. But now I'm just here in, I turned off the auto, generate that you can have for things like dungeons or caves. And I said I wanted to do it myself. So I'm here in the cave brush now, I guess is where we are now at. So I figure I have to do some kind of a system here. So I figured there would be an entrance way that's 5 or 10 feet wide, so we can start here. I had just set up my colors, and now I'm just going to be painting in here, and you can see now we've got this lovely sort of entrance way. Now there's this blast open that you can put right through a certain area, and it will blast open essentially that wall. So if you have like a room or something you want this to begin from a corner of or whatever, or if this has stairs leading down, you can do something like that. So I'm just kind of going to make a little network here now of some caves, trying to keep in mind that these are 5-foot squares. So this is approximately a 10-foot wide sort of hallway. I got to figure out where I'm going to have some encounters, or some creatures are going to be kind of running around and stuff like that too. So a little catacomby, but not so much. I'm just going to kind of make some general hallways and stuff. So I'm going to undo that blast open, and we're just going to start over again, I guess. Something like this, and then I'm just going to sort of make some random passageways that go in and around and through. Make some rooms larger, smaller, and so forth, like this. Maybe something that kind of offshoots this way, and you see it automatically will create those connecting areas, which is really cool. So we can come this way some, and it's going to be kind of a cave system. This is a huge room, about 30 feet across, so not huge, but it's a pretty big room. So I don't want most of them to be that big. We're going to have some smaller ones, some little 5-foot hallways like this that sort of run around and do their thing. So maybe like this. I just want to see what that's going to look like. It's a little narrow for my taste, so we're going to make our brush a little fatter here, and maybe something like this. There we go. I'm just going to run around and figure out kind of how and where I want things to be. It's a little like making a sort of a haunted house layout, because where these angles and turns are, you want them to kind of hide the next sort of thing that may or may not be happening there. My cat, for some reason, is very disturbed. I don't know what's going on with her. She doesn't sound all that pleased with the world right now. cool. And you can leave sections in the middle of these areas that make like kind of like stalactites or stalagmites, or even you know, debris or whatever you'd like to do. Some of these I'm going to sort of maybe connect with a shorter passageway, so you don't necessarily have to walk all the way around, but you don't know that until you wind up having to walk all the way around. Maybe a little secret room in certain areas, you know, pushed off to the back, you know, just stuff like that. Couple other sections here. I'm going to increase this brush size just slightly. I feel like I'm working against myself at this point. So just a little bit bigger. Maybe another one here that maybe connects off of this guy. And like I said, this doesn't have to be too elaborate or intricate or go 50 different levels into hell or anything, but you know, you get the idea. I think that's more than enough, to be honest with you. And then you can add cool stuff in here as well, like if we want a little stream running through or something like that, we can do that. If you guys are watching, just say hello. I'm going to refresh here and see that I can see if anybody is watching. I'm going to put say hello, chat with me. Cool. All right, so with that, the next thing I think I personally would like to do, if I wanted to dress this up, is go in and throw some shadows in, because I have the shadows turned off from them being like automatically generated, which I don't care for. But you know, even before that, let's go add some stairs coming down into this thing. So I'm going to go into where our objects are, probably our object tool here, and I'm going to type in over, excuse me, here on the side, stairs, and see if that's going to give us what we want. Probably helps if we spell it right though. And if that doesn't bring it up, there are other things we can check on. But there are some stairs here. I'm just looking for some like stone-ish stairs. These say metal. Doesn't matter what it says. You know, we want them just to be what we want them to be, and that's the important thing here. Also, we do need to blast this out. So I'm going to go back to this cave brush and go to this blast open and just paint over this area that we know we want blasted open like that. We'll go back to that object tool and we'll find our stairs now. Rerun that and see what we get. If there's something, I'm looking mainly for the color. You know, something like this will be fine. You can use multiple levels of that if you want to make them longer. I'll show you what I mean. Let me find just some stairs, and the thing is, we want these leading into this ground here. So I'm going to rotate these a bit like so, kind of get the idea. I'm going to turn off my snap. I'm going to make the scale just slightly bigger to where they sort of fit across this a little nicer, something like this maybe. I'm going to make two sets, so there's kind of it takes a minute for it to lead down in there. I think that looks like it's leading the right direction as far as I could tell. Then if we want, we can work on painting in land and stuff to kind of fix that up, but I think for now that's going to be kind of okay until I decide what this leads down from. And thinking also we're going to make this darker toward this ground. It's going to be darker, and we just come into our sort of environment settings here. And the ambient light we can just take down farther. Excuse me, my cat is being a menace. There we go. And then I can take the light down quite a bit farther, something like that. Maybe here. We're going to throw lighting in here, some torches and stuff. So we can put this kind of, you can see in all of these walls react correctly for all that light. So we're going to wait on that for just a minute. In fact, let's turn that light back off. Let's just put it back to white. We'll get to that in a second. It's very cool that it automatically does that though, isn't it? And so now let's look in our objects right over here, and we're gonna look now for shadows. So how we're gonna do this is we're gonna use a path. So instead of objects, let's go here, and we're gonna find our path tool right here. And this comes up, we have all these different paths we can choose from. There's tons and tons of stuff to use. But we're going to look specifically for shadows. So I'm just going to do a search here for shadow. And there's all these paths. There's going to be round shadows and stuff too, but not in the paths. That's in the objects. So let's just find a shadow that's kind of a one-sided shadow. Something like this, I think. I'm just going to test this by going like so. It's a bit big. I hate that it jumps back out, but let's find another one that's not so wide or dark. Maybe I'll scroll until I find something that we can use. Maybe this. I'm just going to test these. Nope, not that. Not even sure what that's for. Path tool. Let's see. I'm just looking for a standard shadow brush. These are not the ones I'm remembering. That's not it. And you can tell you get a little preview at the upper left over there. So something like that. Some of these feel just a bit harsher and wider than they should. So let me just undo that and say I'm just looking for something kind of light. So and one-sided. Maybe here. Can't tell till we get in there. I think that's a lot more what I'm looking for. Cool. So let's just grab that path with that particular shadow on it. And what we're going to do is zoom in here and work our way around to where the shadow is going to be sticking out from the wall and fading out as we go, like kind of like that. That might even be, unfortunately, a bit lighter than I want it to be. Now we can make it wider just by coming in here, and you can see it gets a lot wider. Maybe that is okay. Let me just escape from that and do it again. Make it maybe a little less wide. And we're just going to come around and try to follow the edge like this. I think that's still a bit too narrow. So we'll come in here and make it just a little bit wider now and try again. I think that's better. So we'll just stick with that for now. We're just going to trace around the edges until we have a shadow. And yes, this can take some time because you're going to wind up essentially going through this entire path like we're doing here. And I did not mean to do what I just did. Darn it. I have to do that again. Now, to make sure you don't have to do this again, you can do sections by coming down and going, you know, to like maybe an inner corner, like right about maybe here, and double clicking, and that way you can start over from that spot. But you have to be careful that you sort of line up your shadow carefully. It's got a little glitch in it, but not bad. And I'm just wanting to move over, so using the middle mouse button carefully to not end your stroke like that, and just keep working your way around until you get all of this nice and shattered appropriately. Like I said, depending upon how many bends and turns we've done, this could take a minute. Don't limit what you'll do based on how lazy you're going to be about putting the shadows in. Like, oh man, I don't want that many rooms because then I'll have to do all those shadows. Well, if you limit that based on that and be lazy about it, you're going to wind up having a pretty uninteresting environment here. So just do what you want to do, make it look the way you want it to look, and take the time to make it look good. And yes, once you do all this, you will have to go back and do it all again around down the other side. But depending upon your shape of your place, you might just be doing that just by making sure you're going around all the walls. You'll come down the other side eventually. You know what I mean? Just naturally. So anyway, and be careful you don't get these little folds where it folds back over itself. I just kind of go farther out and click, you know, farther along the wall, and it tends to keep that from kinking up like that. Also making sure I'm leaving any little gaps, right, like right here, in the corner there. Just pushing it down a little bit farther to make sure you're covering those. Sometimes I miss them, but you can go back with other shadows and fix that. Not a big deal. See, that's a place where a kink could happen pretty easy, so I just come down far enough, or drag your mouse over even farther to smooth all that out. Remember, you're going to have lighting and all kinds of other great stuff in here, so don't be too hard on yourself about how it's looking or not looking at this point. And if you get in a place where you get a really steep corner, like something kind of like this, go ahead and double click. Then start over. Either, let me escape that. Control Z. There we go. Whoops. Control Shift Z. Let me do a redo on this. Don't want to undo my undo. Redo. Did I just screw myself over? I might have. Oh no. Oh no. I think I killed my shadows. You gotta be kidding me. Okay, so there are a couple of glitches. A little wonky. That's very frustrating. It's alright. We'll go ahead and redo. So the undo doesn't necessarily undo your work on the shadow, apparently. Double click, then start a new place and do that. Be very careful, I guess. That's a little bit of a bummer, but not a big deal. Alright, so we're going to work our way through here, and see, in a place like this you can sort of end your shadow there. Makes that a little more manageable, to have a place where it starts and stops and leaves off. I'm doing that from time to time, so I don't have the problem I just did, where, see, like that, to where your shadow, either if you're not keeping it a continual thing and not having any breaks, you're going to wind up getting to a point where you're a little screwed over, because it's not gonna, you're not gonna be able to stop making the shadow, if that makes sense. So maybe ish like that. I just wrapped it down into itself. It works. Okay, and so now from here, come straight out and just continue. Just try to be careful. Don't screw yourself over like I just did. Hopefully, guys, you can hear me. Let me know if I'm not talking loud enough. But I love D&D. It's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of fun to make the maps and do, all the stuff, and you're not thinking about the garbage in our real world at all. And yeah, it's the best reason for it, in my opinion. And see, for something like that, I just let that shadow, I just put it into the wall, double click, and now, come on, and now I can continue from this point in any direction or whatever that I want, without having to worry about, where I stopped and started and all that kind of stuff. So alright, so let's just continue then from here. And if it looks a little weird, just angle your brush around until it doesn't, and then continue on. So like that should be a stopping point. Go from here, hopefully. A little glitch, but no one's going to notice that. No one's going to notice anything like that. We're here to have fun, not pick on each other's shadow making abilities. I hope. I missed a little spot there, but that's okay. I'm going to pull this one into the wall so I can stop there and try and figure out what needs to be where. I want to go back through this one and get that other wall coming down here, but It's not entirely necessary, however, being the person I am going to go ahead and do that. There we go. I just want to make sure I don't forget that wall, because I will if I just don't think about it for 30 minutes, you know. So I'm going to come back around and get this side of it. And the shadow is, these paths are directional, so you have to figure out where you're starting from and what direction you're going to make them work. But that's easy enough. You'll get it wrong about 3 times and then go back and get it right. I'm just starting a new one here. Oops. Control Shift Z. Nope. Undo. Redo. Yeah, see, that's the only pain. I don't really care for their undo system here. Because if you have to undo something, you're kind of screwed a little bit. So, it's just the way it is. I'll live with it. If we have to refix something, then we do. And we have to redo it, we do. So I'm just going to come back here now and sort of tuck that into itself again. And we have that. Alright, now to do the other parts. You can see this is looking a bit better. And when we get lighting in here, the shadows will look even better. So that's why one of the reasons I enjoy doing that. I got to figure out which wall I'm on here. I think I need to go this way, yep, to get the inside of this little room here. You can double click there if you want. And then from the inside, start a new shadow. And it's good to practice getting those starting and ending points, because when you need them, it's good to know how to get them without having to fight too much about where they can be and not. I know it doesn't make sense with me just saying that. You have to actually do it to feel, you know, what I'm talking about. Where these shadows can start and end and not look like they're just cut off. And see, I could end it here, but you'd see a line. So I'm pulling that down and pushing it over to where it ends inside this corner here, and you just see a nice, soft, continuing shadow. Hopefully that makes sense. And then I'm going to test which direction my shadow goes, and at this point you can see it goes this way, but now I have that. So if I escape, luckily it's only going to cut off that little bit. So can I go this way with my shadow? Let's find out. And that's a big no. So we need to go that direction along that wall, this direction along this wall. And if you're coming this direction, then you need to start not out here, because you'll see that line. You need to start from the inside and sort of pull it up and out from in there. I know it may not make any sense until you do it. So double click here. We got that one. We can come in from here now. And like I said, as you do this, you'll see what I mean. It'll make sense. Double click there. Pull this one out from here now. Just to ensure that I had that little corner covered in there. Like I said, it makes sense. It's like doing the inside corners on a regular wall. You're essentially doing the same thing, but in a cave it's a little more organic, so sometimes it's easier to hide them, and sometimes it doesn't make any sense where those should be. But just do it to where it looks good. I mean, that's the rule of thumb, I guess, right? If it looks good, then don't question how or what and why. Just, yes, do that. That's okay. I'm going to end this one in here, if I can. There we go. And then make a new one that comes in and out here, just to, it's kind of a tight corner. I didn't want it to be too weird looking. And then this one will get wrapped into that corner there. That way you'll never know. This one can't go this way, so it needs to go this way. I'm going to check here now. I believe that we can go... I mean, you can do whatever you need to, but I like to kind of handle them the way I'm handling these, like so. And double click that one in there. Pull it up from this side now. And then wrap it down into the wall. See? That's what I mean. That way you can stop and start kind of from anywhere you want. So if I come up here and wrap it from sort of inside the wall like that, double click that one, now you can come from here. Let me escape that. You can actually come back a little farther, and that way when you make it, there's a soft transition. And that's what I'm getting at. You're just trying to make these soft transitions here. So yeah, this spooky cave, no really idea what's in it just yet, but for the party, I want them to be traveling, you know, they're basically going to be hired to go and clear out some caves. It's a typical scenario, but for their first adventure, should be a good one. Not quite sure what's going to be living in them yet. No one here listening to me, so that's good. Because one of the people here will be on that adventure. And yeah, so I want this to be as fun for them as possible. Let's see here if I pull one out from here. And I want it to be as fun for me as it is for them, for sure, but you know, that has to be kind of secondary. You have to make sure it's fun for them first, even if it's a bit of a pain for you. But, you know, why make it a pain for me at all? This is something I enjoy doing, right? It better not be a pain for me, or I don't want to do it. So I'm just finishing these little bits, doubling over some of my corners there again. There's a double over. This will come out now like this and wrap around. You'll get used to doing this if you do this. It becomes second nature, not a big deal. It's not brain surgery. We're making art, you know, fun art for games, right? So I don't get too bogged down in it or caved into it, or whatever the phrase may be in this case. No, you don't get too bogged down into the idea. Just make it fun, make it look good. There's no super rules or anything, right? There's no rules, in fact. You're making fun maps. Crying out loud, get over yourself. Okay, I think that's all good there. We just need to continue from here. I'm going to end up there and start one here. Just I keep doing that though in that corner, don't I? Alright, there we go. I think we're getting close to the end here. The shadows, like I said, are kind of the most tedious thing, but it's kind of fun because it really builds the look really quickly. So I actually enjoy doing it because I get to see more of like, ooh, it's gonna look like this. You know, it's a satisfying part of the process, I think. It's kind of like when you're like, if you're doing modeling or, you know, model painting or any of that kind of stuff, adding in the like the black wash, you know, you get that all your detail suddenly pops out. It's that moment for me. All right, let's just see. We got all the shadows everywhere where the shadows lie. And I think I do. I don't see any bare spots, any walls that only have it on one side. This one looks missing here, right here. Very hard to tell, but yes, it is in fact missing. Oops, let me escape that and do it from a better spot. Out of all those walls, I'm really surprised I even saw this one was missing. it is. Cool. Double click there. Just make sure real quick that we don't have any missing ones. I think all those are left and right all the way through. That's all I'm looking for. Just make sure both sides have shadows. Like I said, it's not brain surgery. Just make sure they all have their shadows on left and right walls. I think I'm good. No missing spots. I did skip some areas to start with to kind of fill stuff out and figure out where I wanted to go with it. But yeah, cool. All right, so back to the walls here now, the cave brush. I'm going to go in here to blast this back open because apparently I didn't leave that open. And now we are. So there is our cave system. And now we got to put in interesting stuff. So with the brushes here, we have stuff on the terrain that we can do. We could throw some terrain dirt around some of these edges or whatever. We can add, you know, new and interesting stuff here. Like I said, if we have terrain gravel, right, and I'm going to make this a smaller size, we can come in here in between and let's say we can paint the gravel in all through here if we wanted that. I think it makes it a bit busy myself, but it's kind of a way to sort of denote, you know, from what the rock is in between to the actual you know, pathways and caves in there, but that's up to you. I mean, you could do that. It's kind of cool looking. I'm not sure if this is what I should do or want to do in this. I'm just kind of going over and looking to see. Maybe. It's a bit busy though, you know. So I'm going to undo. There we go. And figure out what we can do. This terrain dirt is, I believe, what we have everywhere else here. But we can go in and pick something else. And I have a huge library of stuff in here because I went and was part of a couple different Patreons for a while and downloaded a bunch of content and so forth. So if you don't have, you know, some of this stuff, it's fine. But I do recommend getting like the Bailey Wiki stuff. There's all this like photographic looking stuff, and so you could pick that as your background. It's very busy, that kind of stuff, but you can also just paint that in as well instead, you know, but drop in this stuff, you know, or so forth. But I think what we're going to do is go back to changing this because unfortunately I changed that. Let's go back to our legacy stuff, or what was it called, just our standard stock backgrounds here. I am not sure where it is. Let me just take a minute and find what I'm looking for. I don't know why this is so far up. There's something going on with my display, I think. Ruins, Legacy, Rocky Hills, Snow. I'm just looking for my number 1. Here we go, I think. And trying to find my standard textures. And I'm not finding that I'm trying to. I can't see everything is the problem. I've got my my monitor set to probably not see everything I need to be seeing. Let's see, ruins, special effects, stone and so forth, forest and swamp. Let's see. This may be, no, not what I'm looking for. Let me change my preferences possibly and get my interface set for a better view here and just see. Okay, so everything looks tiny. However, that's going to let me see all of my selections. So let's just go up here and look. I hope it will anyway. And no, that doesn't seem to change that at all. Cool. In matter of fact, I think it's worse. So let's fix this real quick. Oh boy. Okay, well, double click. Double, whatever. Back to my menu. We're going to change this preferences one more time real quick to maybe 224. Sure, sounds great. It's bigger, but it might be too big. And let's find in our terrain brush, we're going to go back here to these square tiles. Let me just knock that back. See if this will help. And it doesn't still. I still can't get to these other bits. But this is the standard textures here, I think. That's good. Okay, fine. We'll stick with this. But you get the idea. You can paint stuff in, do whatever you need, and so on. So for these characters, let's see. We need to have like some encounter areas and rooms. This is the biggest one. This is probably where the most something is going to happen. I don't know what should be in there. Let's find out some stuff. We can throw some objects in, but I think terrain-wise we're probably good. We can put a little water, which might not be a bad thing. I like to go with the, and you can see here when if I paint some water, that's a pool just by itself, but I like to actually paint in some shape here. Let's just take like a brush about this size, and you can, and now you have some water. Personally, I do like the more realistic looking stuff, but we can just here go with a deep color like so and a shallow color like that. Now you'll see looks a little better. I'm thinking the deeper color might even want to be a bit deeper even than that. So now we're going to have that a little, that's a little better. The bigger you make it though, the more of that you're going to see. You can see the deeper is going to be more in the center, which is what we're looking for, I guess, right? Anyway, so maybe if part of this room has a pool or something happening like this, would be kind of interesting. Can we do any erasing to that? Let's see. Let me just go back with my brush here and say, hey, please remove that pool. And also what's cool is that pool is wiggling, which is neat. I'm going to undo my painting there, and I'm going to go back and do it again. And try not to be so outside of the lines. So maybe a little smaller brush. And we'll just kind of go this way. And maybe a little more out that way. Maybe a little more like this. So that's fine. And you can also pick like how far that blend happens between the light and dark colors and so forth. Then there's a material brush, which is handy, but some of it is various degrees of usability. I don't care for any of these textures. Like I said, if you want to throw some lava in, cool, you can. I don't think that lava moves, but the water you can see is actually animated, which is kind of cool. This will not matter if you print these out, obviously, or just export them as is, but if you bring it over, I think, into your like Foundry or another FTT, VTT, sorry, it will work. So, these different things. I think that's supposed to be gold. You can drop some gold in there like that. Pretty simple, some other water pools, grass bushes, which is super handy for that kind of quick stuff. There's some slime, that kind of thing. So this is going to be some water here, and let's just see what else we got. Paths, obviously. Now paths can be cool even if they aren't, getting frustrated, even if they aren't water or a shadow, because you can do walls. I'm going to kind of get rid of that input there. Let's bring everything back. You can do walls, you can do blood smears, you can do, this is a bone fence, it says, grass edging, just all kinds of cool stuff. Depending upon what you need. I've got all kinds of Elvish and Dwarvish script, but you can get all of this stuff from different places, download it, and so forth. Um, this may lead to somewhere if you go in it. I'm not sure of that just yet. It's a thought, but see, that's the cool thing is as you make stuff, you start getting ideas, you know, for your own things. So this is like a cave wall top path. So this could be like an edging, you know, of another wall or you know, any of this kind of stuff. Very cool. Cliff edges, obviously, if you had like a cliff that, you know, was from this high to down here, you know, denote that pretty easily with these kinds of things. So lots of cool stuff to use. Like I said, I'm not exactly sure what I'm doing with certain parts here, and that's something I probably do eventually have to work out. So let's figure out maybe what may or may not be inside of some of these rooms. I was thinking, you know, some of these paths could be, you know, denoting more of what's going on, vegetation or something like that, but not quite sure on that yet. So I think I'm going to wait until I know something. But let's go back into the objects here and just try and figure out, you know, what could be in here. So I had stairs. We're not going to be doing some stairs right now, but I'm saying mostly this is going to be like some monster creature-y stuff. Spiders are fun. I'm thinking though, let's just do something like kobolds or typical, you know, sort of denizen dwelling areas here that maybe people want to get rid of. So I'm thinking they could have some, let's just say some beds or some straw or something. Let's see. Let's look up straw or hay. And then you have a little slider here that goes to fuzzy or exact. And if you go, you know, more to the right, you get more and more exacting stuff. So now we have a straw hat, but you know, I don't want to necessarily go so literal. So you click this and now you're getting strawberries, you're getting straw, you know, whatever. Looks like there's some fish. I don't know why that would be the case, but you get the idea. Maybe hay is what I'm looking for. You know, there's looks like some straw mats, hay floor, it says, you know. This is probably where I would go a little more myself. I dig this kind of look. That's a large piece though, because this is your 5-foot squares. So I'm thinking maybe, you know, the dudes live in different areas of this. Maybe kind of through here, you could have some different straw mats or, you know, things, and try to figure that out. These are different boxes, it looks like, with straw in them. Not really what I'm going for. I'm looking more for these hay piles, assuming that they can live on these hay piles, like maybe they use them for sleeping. So I'm going to take the scale of these way down, you know, and just kind of plot these around different areas. So let's just say, you know, we've got some varying scale. Do we have a variance here? I guess not, but there's a tint. You could tint these different colors and so forth. You know, I believe you can rotate with your mouse wheel like I'm doing here, you know, different places that these guys are sleeping probably. So let's just say 8. Got little 8 bed piles here. This could be some type of a dining, you know, hangout or something. I'm not quite sure. But whatever these things are going to be, kobolds or orcs even, you know, it could be a you know, place for, let's say, orcs. So let's go ahead and make some tables then, just in case it was orcs. And just going to put table, and now we can punch that in, and we can see all these different, you know, versions of tables. You know, which is these are pretty small tables, especially if that's a 5-foot square. I'm thinking, you know, close, but you get the idea. This is either bathing, drinking, or something special somehow to whoever's living here. This to me is some kind of a chamber, maybe treasure. You know, they've got, not that I would be so upfront, but you know, they'd probably protect that a little more. But maybe they don't want to go back here because there's something bad that lives back this way. Oh my gosh, I'm starting to annoy myself a little with this computer. Okay, and so maybe this is inhabited by something worse, and this is kind of where our orcs are hanging out or something, and guarding whatever. You get the idea. Perhaps I could make this even connect. I'm not sure yet, but I think the bad stuff is down in over here. Yeah, I think that'll work. So this is the way to the bad place, right? But they have to pass this, which I'm not real thrilled about. Good questions. These are all things to consider. I'm going to get rid of the hay bales here. And I think we're going to put our guys maybe living here, coming up and be able to guard and whatnot, in and out, and then they go all the way around here to this really special place. There is maybe rubble or something blocking off this, and then this is our bad place that they can get in and out of, and bad things can happen. Okay, I think that works. So let's put our kind of our quarters kind of here, and I believe we need some let's do some beds first. We'll do the tables here in a minute, because they do sleep on beds primarily. No doubles. That would be odd for orcs probably. Let's just go with single standard kind of things. These are all colorable, is why they have this little thing next to them. And I think if we pick like a scatter tool, also these are really, those are really big. If these are 5 foot square, it's a really big bed. So we're just gonna bring that down. Not sure why my scale is doing this, but you know, that looks about right. This is a 5 foot square. Get my rotation here. Not sure why that's not updating. That's kind of bugging. It's not updating in real time. Even on here. Let me see if I can find one that will. Nope, not having it. Yeah, I'm not sure why those are not updating. We also want these to be probably on like layer 2, so they're not affected by the shadows, but they're under the walls, but they're not, but they're above the shadows and stuff. So that's kind of annoying though, the way it's working right now. Let's see here. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm not sure what's up with the rotation of this. There's no way to guesstimate, you know, what's going on here. I'm going to save this real quick though. And we're just going to pull this off to the side. And yeah, that is fine. Let's just call this the orc den, I guess. And it's possible I might restart. That is a possible thing. Let me restart this. Boom. Whoops, wrong one. This one is the one I want. When the other comes up, we'll just have to cancel it. But that's fine. Open. This was called the Orc. Orc Den. We're gonna have to close this other one, so I'm gonna close that. We don't want Dungeon Alchemist to be opening. I'm gonna just pull all this off to the side. We don't want this right now. It may open anyway. So anyway, it's going to take a minute because it's loading up all my cool objects and textures and stuff that I've, like I said, downloaded from other sources, which you may or may not have those as well, but I'm just giving just kind of a walkthrough as I make this. So if you guys are watching and want to say anything, I said chat with me. I'll beat you into it. So yeah, anyway, looks like Dungeondraft is trying to or Dungeon Alchemist is trying to open. We'll go ahead and close that out and wait. We're just gonna wait for this to open. So what's going on with you guys? I'll chat with you. Yeah, I'm planning on taking a group of people who've never played before on a little adventure. So that's what this is about. So I need a little town, this little caves map, and then to populate everything, of course. I have a much bigger campaign I'm going to be taking these folks on. However, I don't want to overwhelm first-time players with, you know, too much of that. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. 1, 2, 3. I guess you can. Excuse me, I keep... yeah, this is why I didn't want to restart, though, because it's going to take a second. But, yeah, not working with my scroll wheel to spin the objects is a little strange. But yet again, like I said, we do have the chat up, so anytime you guys want to chat, please say hello. Waiting, waiting, waiting. Need to warm up my coffee. Still streaming. But man, I need to warm up my coffee. Yep. Guess the secretary took the afternoon off. Perhaps I must get up and go get some warm coffee. Or perhaps I could just will it with the powers of my mind. We'll find out in a minute. I'm gonna hope for warm coffee and see if my coffee is warm by the time I turn around. It may be. It may be. But this is still taking a while to reopen, which, like I said, I didn't want to reopen it because of this reason. Yeah, boy, you guys are not chatty today. I can tell you that right now. Anybody have any questions? Like, hey, Sean, what is it, this crazy thing you're doing, and why are you doing it? How come you never comb your hair? I'm open for a lot of questions right now. Go for it. I could decide to play a game instead while we wait, but I won't. That'd be almost rude. I do need to plug in my iPad, though, for sure. The power is almost gone. So we should probably do that at least while we wait. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to plug this in. Yep. Almost loaded. So many things that have to load, it's ridiculous. Boy, this is the most exciting video and chat I've had in a while. You guys are just beaming with curiosity. Loading the Fae and Magic pack, it looks like. Fae. We used to say that instead of like, meh, whatever. Fae. Means it like, average. Not good enough. Weird how stuff changes over time. I bet no one younger today would ever know that phrase. It's like, meh. That's the Infernal pack. We might be getting close because it's sort of sitting still, meaning it's probably loading the last thing. He hoped. There it is. Exactly what I was saying. Okay, cool. So here we are back. And hopefully we can do things like spin beds and so forth. We're going to go back into the objects here and grab one of these beds. And yeah, that spins just fine now, doesn't it? Okay, so let's go ahead and search for bed. See what happens. We just want these like single beds. Something like this is fine. And then we want to scale that sucker down to, you know, about a square. I'm going to turn the snap off so that we're going to put these also on layer 2, which I think lets it put it above the rocks. Maybe not, because those rocks I think are part of the walls, so it's not a big deal. These are going to be a little haphazard as well because, of course, orcs are not the most organized people. Definitely no made beds here. Just grab a different bed, like, you know. This guy over here is like, I do what I want. Get away from my bed, fool. He didn't make it. He just put it back together a little better. Come in. I know you can change the color of this stuff. Like if this guy had a green bed, maybe he's the captain or something like that. Maybe do a tan bed or two here and there. We'll probably put the more. We put like the, you know, like some weapons maybe next to the door, some over here again. Maybe this is where they go to the bathroom, you know. They just pick a hallway and drop trow. It's possible. Drop trow, what a phrase. You know, maybe slightly smaller on that bed. Something like that. Not sure that one, why that one looks red. That is a good question if you're thinking about it. Pick something like maybe this one. You know, they just sleep in random, all kinds of random spots. Let's go for a couple of tables, I think. We don't really know how many orcs are here. My cat is so whiny. And we're just going to have some tables that are like a couple of bedside ones here, perhaps. And then maybe a couple of larger things. Definitely well used, beaten up, you know, like myself. Let's just kind of go with a little bigger square table here with a little, bring it up a little bit. And then, you know, maybe something between these two beds like this. Of course, these guys, you know, they do things like get in fights and all kinds of fun stuff. So, you know, broken tables are never a bad thing. Nothing super fancy and pretty, for sure. These are all way too pretty. You can see up here in the upper left. Look at that. That's way too nice. You can always type in broken as well, because there's all kinds of cool broken stuff. So check it out. Broken, and then all kinds of stuff. Pillars, you know, tables, jars, vases, stone, and that goes on and on and on. So, you know, this is something we probably should be a little more specific about, because, you know, this could be anything. You got broken sled, a kid's sled. Why? Not for in here, obviously. Maybe there is broken table. I'm just gonna put tab. There we go. So you can have some broken tables here and there. Let's take the scale down a bit. You know, just kind of, maybe they had a bar fight that night before. This half broken table can definitely be sitting here. We can say weapons. I'm just going to put weapon and see if it brings up like a shelf or a weapon rack. There's definitely a weapon shelf there. Maybe something a little better looking, like some X's and some different things. I'm going to put weapons. See if that narrows anything down or changes anything. Weapon shelf. See, this is a real basic. I don't like those drawings personally. Like, it's the ones that come with it. I like the stuff that I downloaded because they're much nicer. You can get free stuff from different places. Like I said, Bailiwiki is a really good place to go. Just look up, you know, Dungeondraft content, and you'll find all kinds of stuff. So, like, you know, we can have a broken shield maybe over here. Like, maybe this is part of the fight. You know, who knows? I just like to dress things up a little bit here and there. But I'm looking for really like a weapon rack. So maybe weapon rack. And there we go. These are a bunch of the same. These are an empty rack. These look like pickaxes and hammers, which would be a little more dwarven, right? This is fine. We can just throw a weapon rack out here, maybe right here. It can be larger like that. I think that's fine. We can even come up with, you know, a different weapon rack here and there. You know, something that looks a little bit different. Maybe this is I don't know if that's spears. I think these guys would probably be a little more like this type of situation. I think something like that. Maybe here. Perfect. What do you guys think? Let me know. Okay, so a couple weapon racks. These guys are at their beds and stuff all around. And if we wanted to, we could go put some shadows. And let me show you how to do that. So I'm just going to go with shadow. And this is in the, not in the paths now. This is in the objects. So if we scroll down after looking up shadow, we're going to find some of these roundish shadows. I believe, if I can find them, probably something more like this, maybe a little lighter. And then we could take these, put these under, and they will go all fit underneath our beds and tables and make that look a little more, you know, rooted in the room here, without having to draw a path of a shadow around it all. I think you guys get the idea. You know, and you can use lighter and lighter shadows given proximity to the floor on any of this or whatever you may have. Cool. So this is a whole like bedroom, for like, I don't know, orcs or something. We're going to decide on a lot of this as we go. So stone, earthy, I mean, all kinds of cool stuff here. So let's just call it that, and then go back to the main. Okay, so let's say we have a bunch of stuff living here. There could definitely be something back this way. And another way we can denote this stuff is with labels. So if we want, we can take text here. We can say, this could be what? If we have 1, 2, 3, and this could be 4. And then we come in here and say, make sure that this is, white so we can really see it or something. I like to do things like that. Give it whatever font we have or want at that point. And then grab it like this, I think. Is that how you grab these? Text. There should be like a move. There it is. Move. We can click on it and move this like so. So I think we should put a 1 here. And this was a different font, so we have to go find that. I'm not sure which one it was, but I'm going to go down here and look at this. This says it's Libra Baskerville, so this is kind of what we would want here as well. Libra Baskerville, boom. It's bold, so we'll just do the regular. Looks good. We could put 2 here, like say something happens once we're down and in there. So we'll just put a 2 there. Probably a 3 here. We hear some sounds or something. 4, and then of course 5 would be here. We can move that one around if it's not in the best place. So you get the idea. This was 1. We need to put our little stairway back in here. So I'm going to go back here and look for stairs again. Somehow I deleted them when I clicked on that blast situation. So let's just find new stairs. Oh, that's Staris, so that's why that doesn't work. Stairs. There we go. And find something more stone-like, appropriate color, etc. Kind of like we had before, I think. Let's say metal probably, but I don't care. We're also going to put these over on level 1. And this is a matter of sorting what's in front and behind and so on, depending upon how much stuff you have in here. So don't worry about it too much, but up the scale a little bit, rotate these around to where I think that's the coming down look. Let's make these a bit bigger. Something like that. And now we can take that text here, move it down there like that. I think that works. Okay. This is a long hallway. We could break off into some small little rooms and different things to explore, and I think that's probably a good thing to do because this is going to get a little bit boring as it happens. So I'm going to go back to our little cave brush here and probably bust out a couple of small little areas. Now we do have a problem with our shadow there now, but that's all right. We can fix that. I'm going to make a little, just a small little bit here for something. We could put a statue. I mean, there's all kinds of things that could happen here, and that's relatively good size here. You got to remember, a figure is going to take up 1 square, so this isn't a tiny little area. Let's go find a way to select our shadow. So we just click on our path tool, and then we can edit points, and you can see here now we've got the ability to kind of come in here, add points, and pull those around. So that's really handy to be able to do especially if we want to add new points and make this a little more precise or whatever you want. So we got that. We can do the same thing here. Cool. All right, so good enough there. So 3, 4, 5. So this should be 6. Just going to give this a an area to be. I'm not sure why I'm not able to write my text here. Oh, because we need to be on edit. So we're going to put 6 for this area. We're going to put 7 for this. We could put possibly 8 here if we know there's going to be something like wandering or whatever. This is going to be 9. Probably something in here that's going to be 10. This is going to be an 11, 12 at the very least. And we could put A, B, and C, like if you want to put a little, 10A or whatever, 12. This is going to be 13. I say 14 maybe here. Like encounter areas, 15. And it doesn't matter what these numbers are. Like 16 can be before 15. It's not a big deal. 17. Not sure what happens here yet. Not sure what happens anywhere, honestly. But this is a good start. Of what we're gonna have here. So it would be kind of cool if this does lead into another map or another part of another map. I got to decide what lives in this world here as well. I think we're going to go ahead and put some pre-lit torches and stuff in this area. So I'm going to throw down with the objects here again. We're going to go torch. Now these don't give off the actual light. If we want that, we probably should put it in like in the VTT. But we could put light in here too if it's going to be a static image or whatever. You can actually lay the moving light over the top of that as well. But let's go ahead and say, okay, torch. Let's just figure out the type. And if it's lit, you can put something like, say, like this guy, and then just make it a little smaller, obviously quite a lot smaller, to where we can still see it though. And we can zoom in here and say, well, we got to have one probably about here. Looks good. Maybe one over in this area. Just kind of give it a little light. Now, they're not going to want light all the time. Matter of fact, orcs typically don't care for lights so much, but they're not necessarily flat out like the orcs of Lord of the Rings or something. But we want to put this as over. We do want to put this on possibly layer 2 to where we know this is going to be in front of things. Might even get rid of an object or two, depending. These beds are a little stacked pretty heavily. But if not torches, then obviously that can be candles on there or something. We can also put one down this way like this. Nice little notch out for that. It doesn't have to be well lit, but it has to be, if they're using it currently for something, they're going to have maybe a torch or two in here. So I'm going to say we throw one maybe here. It looks like I missed with my shadow there. Easy to fix. You go back to your path tool. You go back to your edit points. And now we can come in here and add a couple of points to that path. I'm trying to keep this from being too bunched up, but it may be either way. Something like this. Trying to keep those a little smoother like that. Perfect. You get the idea. Back to the objects, we can go back to our torch here, pop a couple in here. Maybe one right here in this corner piece. Looks like it was meant for it. Now they're going to want this to be torch lit if they walk this pretty heavily. We're going to have to fix our path again. We did not do a good job on this part of it. Okay, that works for now. Add in a couple of more torches to this mix. Back in the objects. I'm just trying to bounce them off from one wall to the other, you know, as it goes down. Kind of keep them out of the way of each other and so on. I'm not sure what would be here. It might be a guard room, might be, you know, especially if what they find over here is important to them, I would think. Probably stick one there, depending upon what is in here. Maybe like this. I'm thinking maybe here. Obviously we need to fix this shadow. You don't have to be as picky as I am being, but you know, it's always nice if it looks nice. Is pretty logical, I think, to assume. Yeah, care about your maps will care about you, or something like that. It's probably a load of crap, but you know what I mean. There we go. Get these nice and shaded correctly now. Much better. You know, just anywhere you find it off and weird looking, fix it. Cool. That's working for me. You'll see when we throw some lights in here, really the huge difference it makes to the whole thing. You guys are probably like, well, get on with that part then. Well, I agree. Okay, cool. So let me just kind of, there we go. If I see any weird shadows, I'll just pluck them and move them as we go, I guess. But I figured I'd take care of a few while I was looking directly at them. Alright, so this one could be better. Overall imperfect, but not bad. Okay. There's a few of these that are just like, dang, dude, were you even looking? Alright. There's a few. There's an ugly one. Doesn't have to be perfect, but if you're gonna do something, take some pride in it, you know what I mean? I'm trying a little bit. If anybody else is gonna see them, definitely. All your players are definitely gonna see them, right? So there's that. Some things aren't as big of a deal as others can be, but still, have a little pride, I say. Okay, so probably for the moment this is okay. I'm still trying to let my mind in the background think about what needs to be happening in all of this, especially this kind of darker place. You know, this is going to be a worse place. Alright, so with that, we've got a few torches. Let's throw another one in, at least in this area here. May or may not need them depending upon what this water is doing. But yeah, something like this for the moment. I'm going to go in, I'm going to darken the area, the environment here. So we're just going to come in to the environment. We're going to go ahead and take that ambient light and pull it way down. Okay. And then I can come back over here to the light tool itself and make this range smaller on these little lights, and either keep them kind of scrubby, which looks cool, it looks like maps, right? Or you can obviously come in here and grab a more, you know, perfect kind of light, or cool speckled light, or whatever you want. They have all different kinds of light kind of profiles. Those are great for, you know, going through trees or windows, or, you know, something kind of like this. So the choice is up to you. The cool thing is, though, if you look, they are blocked by the walls, which I totally dig. So I'm going to go with a little bit more orange of a light, I think, than a yellow. I like that orange look. I'm just going to plant these everywhere my torches are. And you can see why I'm kind of doing it the way I'm doing it. I think that really decks out the whole vibe to see this with like lit torches where they need to be anyway. Like that, like this. Just go find all your torches, and I'm clicking right in the center of that torch so I can tell they are, you know, meant to be on fire from right where they're at. Cool. So I think for the most part that looks pretty good. Now I'm thinking about making this pool glow, because it's got to be special, right, somehow. So if we put on some of these canopy type lights, something like that, and I make these kind of a light bluish glow, this all of a sudden looks to me kind of extra special. These orcs, or whatever they are protecting something here, right? Something magical. So there's two lights, and if I take like a regular old soft light here, maybe make this a little more of a whiter blue, like even brighter, then we can drop these kind of on here, you know what I mean, like it's a glowing pool. That works. It looks like a glowing pool. So these are your widgets. You can come in here and adjust, you know, you can see anyway how far and all this kind of stuff is, you know, your area of effect and blah blah blah. Gonna just kind of come back out of that. Cool. Now what though? You know, we need some bonfire-y areas. I think if there's going to be a, you know, area where they would kind of camp out or guard, there might be a little fire, you know, like a can with fire in it or something, perhaps in the middle of this room. If they get cold, you know, or whatever. So we'll go back into our objects and just look for fire, because this is going to obviously bring up a lot of different things. You don't want just random fire, but something that has fire in it, or is it a campfire? You know, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go a little more exact and run that again. See what comes up for it. We don't want just fire though, and that's the thing. Some of these are going to be just an area, like that said, of fire. So let's go scroll. I don't remember, like, what would a can that's on fire be called? Like we call it like a trash can. Put like can fire. Let's go with fuzzy. Enter, nothing. Real fuzzy, enter. We're gonna get everything from a campfire to, it looks like ropes. I'm just gonna put, you know, brazier maybe, and see what comes up there. Should be Z-I-E-R, am I right? So this is going to be like a brazier, like that. So IER, let's be a little more specific. There we go. Now we're talking, because now we're going to get the nicer looking ones, like this guy. I think can go right here in the middle of the room. And if we wanted to, we can add a light to this one. Like go into our lights, the light tool, go in here, make sure this one's got more of a reddish orange. So we can just flat out push this up this way, like this, and then give that, you know, that kind of glow, but a lot smaller. So we're going to go the range smaller on it. The intensity is fine because I kind of like that it shows up. But look how cool that is. What do you guys think? Cool. And if we want that to flicker over into VTT, we can make it do that. No problem. All right, so here, let's turn the widgets off. I think that works for me. I'm going to worry about this going somewhere else here shortly. I want to put a shadow under this number 10 though, because as you can see, it's going to be kind of hard to read for everybody. So in the object, we're going to go back to shadow again. And I'm working pretty much only on layer 1 and 2 here, but go with shadow. I'm just going to zoom down until I find just a round regular, really hard to see on the screen right now. That is something else. And find a regular, if I can see it, regular old round shadow. We're gonna have to put this over something that's lighter. I can't see anything like that. Where are you? There's some half round ones. We just need just some circles, man. Just some circles. I have to move this around, I think, to find them top and bottom at this point. I don't see, which is weird, my regular round, like circular shadows. I guess that's them there. There we go. So under my little letter here, my number, I'm going to put a dark spot so I can see it like that. Cool. Alrighty, so now this gets ugly over here. This could be spiders. This could be all kinds of stuff. Trying to think of something though that we used to run into all the time. I was going to say kobolds, but something that is a little more creepy that these guys, let's say if they're orcs, are staying away from. If you guys have any ideas, let me know. Trying to figure out what that would be. I asked for that coffee to be hot. It is not. Alright, so we have a lit up cave system here for our little orcs. I think I'm going with orcs. Did I miss? I think I might have missed a torch here, but I just didn't put one. Not sure what's going on over here, but perhaps this is kind of blocked off. Then we'll have the ugly stuff. Then we'll have something else threatening. Because I don't want them to just be dealing with orcs. Because, meh. They're going to get to this, though, and think, oh, great. And I want this to do something cool, but I don't necessarily want this to lead out of the caves yet. So maybe this opens later, or maybe this is like some kind of healing pool. That's why they're around it and protecting it. And maybe this, after our characters fight and fight and fight, are almost dead, this is going to save their life. I think that'd be a good first experience in that regard. They'd be like, oh, this can happen? Cool. Cool. So I don't really know. I don't know if I want to deal with the poison situation, but if we did, we do have the healing pool. So maybe that could still be kind of a cool thing. So maybe we should throw in some spiders. I'm just going to look and see what they have as far as the spider itself. I know there's a ton of like stuff, but here's some spider That's a dead one. That's a dead one. They look dead. They're awful. That's just a spider. Just wanted to see what else might be here. As far as like the look, that's the spider corpse. Everybody needs a good old spider corpse in their adventure. I kind of wanted just a spider. I mean, we could use the corpse, and it just denotes that there's a spider there. That's all it's for. We can put a. I think I have a spider figure, minifig. Got tons of webs, so I mean that's always doable. Let's put these little like on layer 1 for now. I'm not sure why I'm not seeing the web. I think it's because it's so small. Yep. We can put these everywhere. Just got to be careful because spiders are tricky, you know. Let's go ahead and just use some giant spiders here and there, though. I'll make these webs pretty big because these are like pretty menacing things, aren't they? I think so. I do think so. I'm just throwing some random webs out here. It's kind of like a book company, but with a different name. Random Web. They have internet access. They do. All right, so these are leading down to the spider tunnels here now. I've always been like, thought that was creepy and scary to think, oh crap, there's spiders down here. Ugh. Especially if we're playing with somebody who doesn't like spiders. I think there's one person we're going to be playing with that I think she does not like spiders, so this ought to be fun. If that's the case. Let's just say that's a really big web. Let's just say this is kind of the main area. Maybe we'll get somebody stuck in a spider web and they're going to try and have to get out. So here's our pit for the web and so forth. Maybe. We'll see what I kind of come up with over the course of this. I don't want to give anything away, so I hope none of my players are watching this video. That would suck. And maybe this is a holding cell where they find somebody. So let's do some wrapped up bodies, but like alive, like in stasis. So let's just go ahead and scale this down because these are only supposed to be 5 feet ish, 6 feet, so a little over a square long, something like this. Let's just put like 3 of them here, like they're being held captive. And what's gonna suck is that they never go down here. They're never gonna be found if our players don't go there. Ooh, look at this. Eggs. I'm gonna open this up and see what that looks like. Okay, that's perfect. So let's just make a whole bunch of spider eggs everywhere. And of course they're here with these people because these are their babies that are gonna hatch and eat these bodies. Come on, folks. Of course that's what happens. Anything else? Let me see. Let's put a skeleton or 2 around here because obviously they've been eating people who've come in here before, I would think, right? There we go, some skeletons. What is this guy? This is kind of the basic stuff, so let's find better ones. Let's go ahead and make these the same size. They can't be bigger than a human taking up the square. There's one there. Let's find one. They're going to get picked off as they go through. There's a couple people who croaked along the way here. Unfortunate meeting / mishap. Let's see, what does this one look like? Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, there's a dead body. That's going to mean something to somebody. Skeleton, horse. Can't get a horse in here. Dragonborn. Maybe. You know, let's just put that this way. Maybe where this is, like there's a Dragonborn skeleton stuck in the web. Perfect. Just here and there, you know, there's some bodies. I think that's important. Don't know what this is though, because if this is something that can come in and out, and that's the only entrance, these guys are going to know it's there. But if it's something that lives here and can just be self-contained over time, because it's blocked off, and it doesn't really necessarily fight with the spiders, this could be something that could just sort of live in these caves on its own. I don't know what that would be, just off the bat. It could be stuff that doesn't move, like vegetative, like shriekers. And they better hope they don't get in here first, and then, you know. But I think the shriekers aren't going to warn anybody but maybe the spiders. So, and shriekers can do damage, you know. But it can't be something that's going to get up and wander the caves unless these guys know about it and just fight them off once in a while, like giant rats or, you know, something like that. So, what could it be? I kind of like the idea of shriekers, though, or something to that effect. This is going to probably bring up Shrek. Yeah, so that's definitely a thought. Definitely a thought. I like the way it's fleshing out. I don't know what happens in these areas per se. Like I said, this is some kind of healing pool for sure. So there wouldn't be any dead bodies around that. I think the orcs would probably want to guard that. So more than likely, things to think about, but I think it's coming along. I think it's working out okay. I like the fact that we've got orcs, we've got spiders. It's a kind of typical setup. It's the perfect one for a basic adventure for level 1 characters. You know, throw some stuff that we've all fought, we've all dealt with, but things that are new to them. And that's what's important, because they are fun. They used to be fun. I remember those things being fun. But then you get in this place where orcs, boring. But they're not really if they're played right, you know. Lord of the Rings is not boring, you know. There it is. All right, let's look up maybe... what would they have here? Maybe they eat somewhere, you know? This is kind of the sleeping and pooping and getting ready for battle. Then they come over here, go to work. This is the protected area. I would think eating and stuff might happen here. Or here. Probably here. That's not very big though if it's 5. So, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to think of what would be the best. These are pretty small beds now that I'm looking at them. Perhaps that wasn't the best choice. Let me see here. We'll just select some of these. That should be bigger. And this will tell me that I need to get rid of some of the beds, like that one for sure. This one can move over and be made bigger. I was just trying to save some room. Don't think I like that one. I don't know what it is about it, but one of these things is not like the other. One of these things, this bed is too long. Okay, cool. I think that works better. Better. Okay, cool. Just making sure the scale's kind of right. You know what I mean? Doesn't have to be perfect. So we got some skeletons round and about. We need a spider for sure in 17. So let's go ahead and add some kind of spider. If I can spell. It's actually about typing more than anything. And the spider, let's go more into an exact. Bring up a real spider here. We don't need a spider corpse. We need a spider. There we go. We're getting closer. These are all corpsey. Do we have non-corpse spiders? These all look dead. I mean, it's not going to matter. We're not going to be like zoomed up on them. I just would be nice if we had a full alive spider to pick. These are all right, I guess. Blue, sure, why not? We're going to have to make that probably huge in comparison to what it's on. I don't know. I think that works for me. Let's put that not on our corpse though. That works. Okay, so trying to decide what goes where. We're gonna need some tables. We're gonna need some, you know, places they hoard their treasure. You know, I'm not worried about where they go to the bathroom. These are orcs. Let's try and, yeah, make a little sort of treasury kind of area over here. Like maybe this is where they keep their haul for now. So let's use some chests, you know, some gold, or just some closed chest for that matter. You know, that one's a pretty big iron chest. Let's rotate that around maybe if we're going to use that one. Yeah, something like that. We have a closed one or two obviously here and there. Maybe there's some prized magic items sitting off to the side. You know, they keep these open because they like looking at their jewels, as they say. That didn't sound right, but you know, this is not a video for kids. So there's some chainmail. I don't know if we just want to throw that on the ground over here. Maybe there. And find some other booty, as they say. What even is that? It's leather armor. I'm looking for the treasure stuff, y'all. I mean, these guys have, you know, stocked up a little bit. Now, I kind of want this hidden, though. You know what I mean? To where they're almost, maybe they'd miss it the first time through. Would be cool. I think that would be kind of cool. So I'm going to grab our shadow again there from the thing. We're trying layer 1. We're going to throw this on under. We're going to just go find these rounded shadows. If I can find them. I think these will be fine here, and just sort of throw a light shadow under some of the stuff. Probably this one. Just to have something rounding those a bit better. Cool. We need something kind of obstructing that. So I think I'm going to do is just look up debris or broken and see what we got. Something that's kind of hidden, you know, that hides this sort of area. And I'll put this on like a higher level of that it's on, like on higher, like on 3 or something. That way this covers, you know, and I can kind of show that. And then of course our fog of war will be, this will all be black until they enter that area and can see it. In my opinion. We can even delete all this and then I can say, this is what you see because now you're in there. You know. You can even put a statue in front of it, you know, to kind of hide that. Because these guys are new. They're not going to be like, I'm going to look at this. I'm going to look at this. No, they're not going to be hunting. They're going to be just running after what's right in front of them a lot of the time. So we'll just say this is a statue of Grogalog or whatever his name might be. That these guys kind of, you know, not worship, but you get the idea. But it's going to block off the fact that there's anything back here. In fact, that torch could be not on. You know, we could take that and go zip. And have that off until they are in that area or something, you know. So, you get the idea. Alrighty, so with that, we've got a little story written here. They've got some treasure they're hiding. They worship, not worship, but they honor a certain person or thing. They're ready to fight. They're obviously protecting this pool. We need to know if they're going to be ready to fight the second these guys come in, or maybe if they're in bed at this moment. And we can walk and just whack them while they're all asleep. Because we only have 3 people fighting. So I got to be kind of careful that these are some pretty weak orcs. Since there's going to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, if there's 9 of them, 10 of them, or whatever, you know, we got to make sure these are not so super powerful that they can kill our characters. Also spiders, relatively common giant spider, not, you know, not too giant. And maybe there's only one giant spider that runs these caves, you know, kind of like a Shelob kind of situation. We could throw in a couple of rats maybe, you know, something going on over here like that. It's not a bad idea, some giant rats, so they get the idea of what a giant rat is. This will be a giant spider, some giant rats, and some orcs. Pretty standard fare, but I think this needs to be introduced them to the fact that the common things are what you find the most, in my opinion. I don't want to make it boring, but I also don't want to say, hey, you fight a dragon your first time out. Not even close. That's not going to happen. So let me say, let's try rats. I might change this rat situation to, you know, something else, but I don't even know if there are rat objects in here, and that's fine if there's not. Obviously I can just say that there are. It's all good. Excuse me. Boxes of hay. Hay. Obviously nothing rat like. So I'll come up with something that goes in here. You know, there's rags. They could be fighting an army of rags. It could be like Ragnarok. Now that's hilarious. More like Rag and Rock. They're in a cave. Maybe some crystals around this blue stuff might be kind of making it magical, more magically, you know? I think that's kind of neat. Don't you all? I do. Let's kind of say, hey, you got some magically something happening here. What are we looking at? What are we dealing with? Okay, so with that, not a bad setup. I just got to write the stuff for it. I've got to decide, you know, who is doing what and why. And I honestly think that we need to kind of have a little outdoor situation here so they walk down into it. I'm going to take this object. I'm going to try and get back out of what I'm doing. Object tool. I'm just going to select my... Here we go. Select this guy here. There we go. And we're going to duplicate that. So copy and paste, I think, would be fine. We're going to move this over to extend the stairs out like that. And I'm going to build a little, you know, kind of entryway area there. I think that'll be kind of cool. There's a little place they walk down into from something, you know, like an outside of the cave scenario. You know, there's like some kind of arch, right? So let's see if we can get an arch. Doorway situation. Just trying to dress it up, you know. Make the map cooler. I mean, I have these really interesting larger things. These totally top-down type things, which are fine, you know. Let's see what we've got here, though. Just going to look up here toward the top. Let's go a little more, you know, specifically. Arch, not, obviously not torch. Then we got archery. That's funny. This is obviously targets for archery. We have our archways, which is probably more of what we're talking about doing here. So I'm going to make that a little bigger just to see if that's more of what I want. We can see if there's some better looking ones here. They're pretty dark because there is no light up here, which we can put out there. I think it still works out here, but I don't know because of the cave wall situation. We'll find out. But like I said, this is just an entryway into the cave, so, you know. A torment arch. Not sure what a torment arch is. Let's do a nice... I think, is that something you strap a person to put them into torment? To torment them? Perhaps. These are way too nice for what this is. Let's just go with a stone archway. I'm just going to make that a little bigger. This is the entrance to that. I think if we put a light here, though, it's not going to work because these lights are mainly, I mean, they're blocked by the walls, but I guess they do work now that I'm looking. If we wanted to, we can make this big. We can make this the regular old sunlight, bigger range, you know, this kind of thing. You know what I mean? This is outdoors. Obviously, that isn't going to penetrate those walls. This is all the outdoors. So if we come up here, say that's our essentially our sun, go back to our terrain brush. We can do some gravel. We can do some. Let's do some ground. Looks like our thing's going to work for us better now. It's not shoved off of the top. Thank goodness. That's what I was worried about. But just going to find some grass. I don't like this basic grass. That's gravel. Because the basic grass just has this sort of green, overly green. It's just ugly green. That one's not bad, but it is quite green. I like things that have that sort of old world kind of aesthetic to it. So we can do some pathway stuff. What's cool about these is that if you turn the intensity way down, you can sort of come in here and brush Oh, sorry, we can also turn on the blending here, and then we can sort of brush in just sort of a, a hint of it, which is cool. And then throw some gravel on top of that, or what have you, you know what I mean, to kind of mix it up. It starts to feel like more of a kind of a path leading up to it. Then you can, of course, replace this like ugly snow garbage with something much cooler. Some more grassy stuff like something like this, and we'll go ahead and turn the brush size down a little bit for this and kind of turn up our intensity now, kind of drop in some, what may or may not be happening outside the caves. We don't know what's out here. It's not important though, because this is really just the lead up to all this. We could have an interaction somewhere here. We can actually add some new as well. 4 more blocks. I don't know why they don't let you add as many as you need, but okay, that's all good. Like if we wanted to paint in some little bits of grass that just kind of sit around the edges of our thing, throw up the intensity, kind of, whatever. That's ugly. So we're gonna come up, grab this terrain mouse, change that out with something, say like this, and now you can sort of edge that out with something a little more interesting or realistic or what have you. Drop your plants and trees over the top of that, make this a much smaller brush size. This is about as small as the brush size gets, apparently. Maybe my squares are too small. It's a possibility. And then if we want to, there's another really cool way to do this. You just find something with a bunch of rocks on it like this, and then we paint over the top of, oh, and I just changed the one I had. I didn't want to do that. Did not want to do that, I don't think. Well, I guess that was fine. It's not really what I wanted to do, but fine. Use maybe that one. And then if you want, come back, like I said, with something with these rocks, and we can come in here and just sort of paint around and then find the rocks that are in that other layer, and it really kind of starts to dress up some of this stuff a little better. And I'm not painting rocks. I'm revealing, the other image, I guess you'd say, that has the rocks in it, which works really well for something like this, apparently. So, works for me. Then you can go and drop rocks on it or whatever you need to break it all up even better. Yeah, I think that's working all right. And then we can go to our objects, grab our scatter tool, and come in here and look for rocks or whatever. Boom. And you'll get all these rocks for freaking days. And the cool thing is, with the scatter tool, you wind up getting a scattering of these rocks, at the same time. So where is my scatter tool? I'm not really seeing those scatter, and I don't know why. Scatter tool, layer 1. Let's go. Just go ahead and put it on layer 3 to be safe. Scale, pretty freaking big. I am not seeing them. Spread, yeah. Let's just grab any of these dudes. It said they're going to be like that. I don't see them coming up, and honestly, I don't know why. So we're going to play with the settings just a little until I start to see something. We're on over. Yeah, I'm not sure why that's not working. Let's find these rocks instead. Maybe it thinks I have too many things on. I don't know. This is being weird. We might have to start again. I don't want to have to do that. Layer 2. Let's try just with our terrain brush to see if if that's working. That seems to be working fine. The water seems to be working fine. So let's go back to our object tool. Maybe it's just the way I've got this set. There's a rock. Maybe it just got hung up. So we're going to look in rocks again. Try to go for these little pebbly ones like we had. Change the scale. I think it was just stuck, to be honest with you. Spread, we'll turn way down. Scale, we can... don't seem to see that doesn't seem to be being affected. So I don't know what's going on with it. There's a little glitchiness apparently happening with the scaling and so on. There we go. And so I'm going to up the scale slightly. Try this again. I don't see it. So you have to tap it multiple times is what it is. Tap, tap, tap. So those are too dark anyway, but you get the idea. Cool. Not the ones we want. So we can come in here and just grab a rock. And we can say at this scale, you can just start dragging around it and it'll start dropping rocks. You know, like a chihuahua that had too many hot Cheetos all over the place. Perfect. It's perfect. You can change the color of those if you don't like that color. You can use the lighter ones like this. You know, hot Cheetos all over the place. You can use the orange ones so they look like hot Cheetos. Anything you want. You can make sure your shadow for those little objects is on. It's not really giving us much of one, but that's okay. I don't really care for the built-in shadow of any of it. There's some other rocks, you know, that they tend to look a little better because these are obviously all the kind of that bailiwicky stuff. And then trees. You know, if we have some trees, we want to add trees or bushes, we can truck in here. Dead trees are always fun to put in places like this too. Knowing this is a place where bad things might live. Nobody's taking care of this stuff. You know, we can go find some live trees as well. Probably farther down, something a little more nice looking like these guys. Dot the landscape here and there with those. And it helps break up all this kind of weird stuff because we have that other in there, you know, the painterly weird stuff there in the back. But if we handle it right, this will wind up looking really nice, and a lot more like a traditional, very traditional map, you know. I think those dead trees can probably be yanked out. I don't really care for that in the mix of everything else. One here and there is not a big deal, I guess, but I'm just going to rip them all down, and yeah, keep adding other things. Look for some other trees, you know. One thing we didn't put is some coinage laying anywhere. We know these spiders probably have some kind of treasure, maybe, depending. I don't remember. I have to look back how spiders deal with that, if at all. Yeah, so pretty cool. It's a giant tree, maybe not that big, you know. So yeah, just trying to plant out some of this, you know, and make it feel a little more populated. You know, and then we're gonna have pretty much the edge of the mountain would be here. There would be no, you know, anything beyond this. So if we didn't want anything else here, we can now crop in our map by going to, if I can find it, map level, custom snap settings, level settings, and we don't want to make a new level, but I am going to go to map settings, and you can adjust the amount of dust, grime, wear, and so forth, which I dig. none. Building where? Where is our... I'm looking for the map dimensions so you can cut it down after the fact. Now, I might be getting confused that this might be another program, you know, that I'm that I'm thinking of, and I hope not. I hope I'm able to... Here we go, change map size. You have to be careful because you could eat away your stuff, and when you do, it's gone. That's what I've been warned about. So we're gonna minus tiles from the top. I don't know if this is actually doing it as I'm doing it. So I'm just going to say okay to that. Whoo, boy. I don't know what we did. So I'm going to say undo, but I don't know that it will. I probably just ruined my map, guys, to be honest with you. I don't know what's happening with that. It worked for my walls, but it didn't work for any of my objects or my shadows. That is not cool, man. I might have ruined my map. Not cool. So I don't believe you can undo the changing of the map size, if you can believe that. That bites. I'm going to say remove 5 from the bottom. So that really that did reset the bottom a little bit, which is good, but I don't know what's going on with this image. I'm going to save. Perhaps this is what needs to happen. I don't want to reopen it because we're going to be stuck here doing this for half a day. So I think it's just what's on my screen. It's like a screen glitch. So I'm going to go ahead and go to menu, change map size again. I'm going to take down 3, 4, 5, 6 from the top and say okay. And it looks like, yeah, it's working. I'm going to now do, let's say, a few from the bottom again. Change map size. Never had to deal with this before. 3 and say okay. I mean, it's weird because it like glitches and then it goes back to normal. It's showing this weird stuff at the bottom though. Like if it's this but revealed. And I think it just has to do with the fact that that was showing when I was covered when I was changing stuff. So let's change map size. Let's take up like 5 off the top. Let's say okay. And that's more the size that I want for sure. I might take 2 off the bottom. I think the glitch is getting less as I go. See what I mean? How it's kind of straightening itself out. Change map size. Let's take 2 off the top now. It's probably going to have a problem until I take at least 1 off the bottom. So let's take off 1 more off the top. Let's see. Change map size. 1 more off the top. See if that straightens it out. And then another at least 1 off the bottom. It's kind of a glitch I wish they would fix. Obviously they have not, so it's a little bit of a pain. But it does, it looks like it works itself out eventually. You know, everything is in the right spot, I think, right now. Except for this weird stuff at the bottom, which I can live with. This way I've got room for my title. I've got room for like a legend or something, I guess, if I wanted that. There's settings. Don't need those. Text again. Okay, that's fine. Let's just add a little text here and call this, what could we call it? The Caves of Athendar. Why not? That sounds like something from the 80s, doesn't it? That we would hear about in the D&D cartoon or something. That's what I'm thinking like. So we're going to just grab that. Maybe we can up the font size after the fact, which yes, we can. Thank goodness. I wish it would let me press enter. You know what I mean? It's not letting me break this line, which is a little weird. Perhaps I need to do this and create a new text below it, which is a little wah, but whatever. And We will grab it. Up it now, hopefully. Yeah. I don't know what Athendar is. It's just a name I made up. Silly. But, you know, whatever. That's what we do. That looks good. And hopefully this will go away at the bottom here when we close and reopen. I'm sure it will. It's a shame that it won't for the purposes of the video we're doing here. And then I need to come up with all of my stuff, you know. So yeah, perfect. I think that's cool. I'll probably go back and try to get rid of some of that map size. Like the top, we can come down 2 more tiles. The side, we can come in, you know, a couple of tiles. Let's see. I'm not seeing, again, my entire, you know, thing here. So I'm going to put -2 here. And then the bottom is fine. So I'll say okay. And it's all messed up. So then I'll just do change map size. We'll do -1 from this side. And hopefully that will fix, there we go, that weirdness. That's a little scary to have to do that, because I know that once you screw up, you can't get it back. So that's a little scary to think about. Cool. So I'm going to save this, refresh it, etc., whatever I've got to do. And hopefully that will correct this weirdness at the bottom. And we'll talk to you guys next time. Okay? Thanks for watching. Hopefully there'll be more conversation next time. And we'll talk to you later. All right. Bye.